Al.
Okay.
What's up, man?
Same old same. How are you?
What the hell? I love the back. That
I
area
know,
is
right?
freaking gorgeous.
Seriously, people just like they have Zoom calls and there's like this like junk in the background. Yours looks legit. It looks
Oh, yeah, 'cause I like stream games and stuff up here, so I've been having this going for a while now. This is my man cave.
nice.
Awesome. So this is Camelia, the person I talk about, and this is my brother Alee.
I'm so excited. I love every time I get to meet a new piece of Amaka's family. I just feel like I'm in like Flynn, you know. But nice
She's
to
part of
meet
Nigerian. We
you.
need to come up with a Nigerian name for her. That's the
I
thing.
would be so.
There's literally like two or three that get recycled between everybody. So Amarachi,
Uh-huh.
I've had it, you know.
Amarachi.
Boom.
That's a good one.
If you
Amarachi.
were a male, you'd just be Chifi Kenna. Boom.
Boom.
Right on.
Okay, everything Nigerian just like it sounds beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Can I just say like just the I haven't heard much of the language, but the intonations and the words that and the names I've heard, just gorgeous.
She has me like giving her Igbo proverbs, and she wants me to do it with an accent, and so I'm just like whatever. But Ali, so excited to have you here. We are so excited to have this conversation with you. I told her you're a hip hop head, you were a rapper before, so this, and you're such a big Kendrick Lamar fan, like I am, and now she is. So the little I told you, basically, we were at her place watching the show, and she had other guests there, so she was so busy trying to, take care of them. So she was kind of off and on listening to the program, to the performance. And the next day when she sees me, she has this look of
we got some
we have some talking to do. And I'm looking at her.
What weren't you telling me, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Why didn't you tell me?
Like we both absorbed it peripherally, right?
Mhm.
But because I was handling a lot of stuff, I was hosting, I have a toddler, so I had a lot going on. But I was like, wait a minute, this is the coolest halftime show we've ever had, isn't it? I was like, something was happening. Like I knew something was happening, but I didn't really know. And I have so many questions, and I'd love to hear your breakdown on it and what you think was significant about it, culturally or otherwise. Because I don't know. I think one of the things since then, because I was really like pumped that day. One of the things since then I've been wondering is the kind of tabloid nonsense going on kind of overshadowing the higher art that's going on? I don't know.
I wouldn't say that the tabloid stuff is overshadowing the higher art of it only because that's what art is, right? It's something that we're supposed to interpret and discuss. And so the more outrageous it is to people, the more people go back to double check and see what it is that they're either mad about, or those outraged people even are trying to dissect it and pick it apart to find, how inappropriate it is. So it gives so many layers to it. I mean, if you think even back at like, what is the Venus de Milo or any of these old, arts where it's showing exposed bodies, at the time when people were interpreting it, of course, there's people who just were oohing and awing over it, but there were other people who were like, why would they paint a naked woman? She should be covered up. And that was a lot of the discussion at the time, when we're discussing the human form. So it's not really that different when it comes to this one. Racist gonna racist. That's fine. Let them racist, but as long as it's contributing to the discussion, because that's part of the intention of the performance. Kendrick at least looked ahead. So when he had Uncle Sam, Samuel L. Jackson playing that Uncle Sam character, he's the voice of the audience. Already by the time the criticisms are levied at the performance, they were made by Uncle Sam in terms of him policing Kendrick's conduct, telling him don't do this way, and then kind of, taking a breath of relief when he starts to perform the softer songs, only for it to all come crashing down again.
No, I thought that was brilliant.
It was
Samuel Jackson, like that construct. It reminded me of like old Greek plays where it was like there was a chorus and then there was like people commenting. There was something that was very meta about it. But don't let me drive this. I don't know how you want to run this.
No.
If you want to go chronologically, if we want to comb through.
This is how I think
we'll start. Discussions are always the best way. So
this is always the best way. But I will start with For people who are not aware, you
Mhm.
had mentioned the background on how Kendrick got to the Super Bowl. We all are aware that it started with this beef thing, but in your own words, what how do you see Kendrick? How did you see Kendrick come into the Super Bowl? And did you actually see him even before this happened last year? We have seen him being at the Super Bowl this year.
No, I mean, just because it's a historic thing, right? There's only been one solo hip hop act at the Super Bowl, which was Kendrick this year.
Hmm.
So there's no way I could say, oh, I would have seen it coming. I've always known he was going to. No, I would have never thought that the NFL was going to give that position to hip hop because they hadn't done it to this date. And it was arguably in a better place before now.
Yeah.
So the fact that Kendrick's just getting it is pretty surprising. But because of the run that he was on in the last year, it does make sense.
Okay.
But for the macro in terms of the entire thing, you know, the kind of artist that he is, the career he's had, it makes perfect sense. But um, leading up to the Super Bowl, just the whole Kendrick experience, if you will, he's only had like five projects, so he's not like your average artist who's putting stuff out every 2 or 3 years, especially in hip hop. He's always been kind of somebody who marinates on his projects, comes out when he has something to say, and if he doesn't have anything to say, you're probably not going to see or hear from him. So he's always been pretty mysterious in that regard. But even since around his second album, which was To Pimp a Butterfly, which is a heavy listen, but it's like very good music. It'll make you feel a lot, so, but it's not like something you're going to go out to party to. But even since around then, he had this little back and forth with Drake that was brewing. So it's hard to even separate the this performance or any of this from Drake, because they're actually kind of intrinsically tied to each other just from the beginning. They had a working relationship where they were on music together. On Kendrick's first album, Drake is on Poetic Justice, so they even have a feature relationship. Kendrick is on Drake's album. He actually has like a whole verse to himself without even Drake being on the song on the end of Marvin's Room on Drake's second album. So they're in a space where they're working together. But by Kendrick's second album, on To Pimp a Butterfly, he starts saying something on a song called King Kunta. He says, uh, he says something about a rapper having a ghostwriter, you
Oh,
know.
I think I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah. So he says, guys are sharing bars like they got the bottom bunk in a two-man cell. So he's pretty offended that he found out somebody has a writer. So now that we move forward, we find out that this was Drake. But
Hmm.
at that time, he's already starting to kind of see it. So there's a dissension from where he views himself as an artist who's about his writing and stuff like that. As you know, he's a Pulitzer Prize winner for his writing, and then
Yeah.
artists who are manufactured by the system, if you will, which is Drake, because he's the biggest artist in the game, but he's not actually putting his own art forward. So through that one, damn, you hear songs like Element, If I Gotta Slap a Pussy Ass Nigga, I'm gonna make it look sexy. And a lot of these things where when you start to look back on it, you think, was he talking about the same guy going forward? He has another one, Rich Spirit, on Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers,
Yeah.
and he says, uh, stop playing with me before I turn you to a song.
Yeah.
Stop playing with me before I turn you to a song. And so suddenly somebody gets turned into a song in 2024. And so you start to look at it, the heart part four, he has the line where he says, don't tell no lies about me, and I won't tell truths about you. And then he winds up using that line again in Euphoria, in the
Right.
diss to Drake. So a lot of this, and then if you go through Drake songs too, they have a lot of back and forth. So, as an artist, at least, it's inspired Kendrick to
Mhm.
put a lot of this kind of forward, and it's driven his art to be something that stands apart from like the mainstream or the microwave hip hop that we've had for the last few years.
Mhm.
And that I feel like is kind of what led him to this. So when it comes down to the beef finally coming to a head where they're taking full blown shots at each other and they have this huge back and forth that everybody pays attention to. If nobody knows what was brewing under the surface, you might not know. But Kendrick has basically seen all of this coming for the past 10 years and has like been preparing himself and the audience for it just for us to all get this moment. So now that it's all being released as this, giant artistic display, it's hard to even tell how much of this he didn't know was coming, because now he's able to have a victory lap on top of all of it. Were
And
you guys like party to the beef? Were you there when it happened? Because
oh yeah, I was because we know during our family, yeah, I filled her in because she wasn't like really focused on it, but I would tell like, oh my God, did you hear? And she's looking at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
But you know that I was in it, and I won't be lie, I was Team Kendrick. The one, I mean, as I listened to some of the lyrics from the other party,
Hmm.
and it was cool, but it just didn't sound like anything. It just sounded like the usual stuff I hear on the radio. So I guess that's why it wasn't so appealing to me. But when the one song that I thought was good from the other party was the one that he used the AI for Snoop and and Tupac.
Oh, I thought that was the worst thing
No,
ever.
no, 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 no. Not in terms of the word. I like, me, I like to let the beat first. So the beat was
Yeah.
pretty
Oh
hard.
yeah, I do like the beat.
The beat was hard, but then the other part I was like, ah, that messed it up, So he really, really, my jaw was on the floor when I heard Euphoria was great, but when I heard Meet the Grams and
Hmm.
then when I heard the last one, my jaw was on the floor each time. It's those cartoons where you have to like someone has to hit your jaw, your mouth to close.
Yeah.
That was pretty much what it was. It was amazing. I think it was the highlight of 2024 for me. It
If
was
you were there for the Meet the Grams moment in real time, it was like being in a horror movie.
that is true.
So Drake releases Family Matters. And Family Matters is a good sounding song. I don't think the disses are that great, but it sounds great. So if you're thinking like this is gonna get the people involved, so as a Kendrick fan, I hear Family Matters. So, oh my God, he got him. This is gonna
Yeah,
be trouble. I don't know how we're gonna respond to this one. And
20 minutes
within an
later.
hour,
Yeah.
Meet the Grams drops. And
Drops.
so people are like, he dropped again an hour later? No way. And when you hear Meet the Grams, the way that the tone shifts, all of the fun that was happening on the Family Matters, that's gone. Now
Mhm.
you're sitting here like, oh my God, is there something going on in Hollywood?
Yeah, yeah, it was that spooky
It
type.
was spooky.
Yeah.
Like I hear you guys, and I'm a little bit outside of this. So for anybody who's like watching this and doesn't know like the ins and outs, I know just I'm barely touching on it. But for me, this is the problem I have with, and I get it. Drake inspired a lot that Kendrick has done, and vice versa. However, for me, it kind of cheapens Kendrick for me. Let me explain before you get
Yeah,
angry.
go for it.
Because you're talking about a Pulitzer Prize winner arguing
Mhm.
with somebody who wears a Canadian tuxedo. Like we have got, they're in different leagues, totally different leagues. Like you got Hotline Bling, and then you've got this halftime show where he's bringing up some major cultural, issues. I'm like, Drake can't even like hold a candle to
Mhm.
Kendrick, but
Well,
I'm not.
that's why it 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 would cheapen it if you look at it on the surface. But if you
But
look
yeah,
at it as the struggle of the artist, right? Because Drake is who he's being compared to constantly, regardless of how we view it or the fans are viewing it now. For the last 15 years, Drake is the person that everybody is associating the art form of hip hop with.
sure, and
So,
I like what you said earlier too about like, oh, if people were exposing like a bare breast or something, people were getting freaked out. Whatever it is that makes people come back and examine things, it doesn't
mhm.
matter what that thing is. So I respect that point of view, but it's just like they're in such different leagues. They're, like, and it might be what they stand for. Because if you think about overproduced commercially pop music,
Mhm.
kind of like where Drake's
Drake
at,
is.
versus
Right.
somebody who writes their own stuff and has a lot of soul and came from like, I mean, where it's so
It
poetic.
speaks on the experiences of that,
Yeah,
that struggle, that upbringing.
yeah,
And
I would say that I don't think Kendrick would have wanted to go out of his way to deal with Drake. I think there was an instigation from Drake. And I
sure,
think
okay,
Kendrick kind of gave a warning to him. Like, if you want to, because battle rap has been part of the hip hop culture.
Sure.
It has always been. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter. Like one of the biggest, of course,
Sure.
Tupac and Biggie, God rest their souls. Unfortunately, that led to their
But they were
demise.
both good.
They were both good.
Well,
But
as a rapper, right, there should always be a feeling of I am better than
then
you. I'm better than all of you, you know, and even that's kind of what started their little beef because Kendrick did this verse on a song called Control, where he called out a bunch of rappers by name, but not in like a disrespectful way. It was kind of more like a friend, a respectful acknowledgement that they are known
good.
as skilled rappers. So
Mhm.
he said a bunch of their names just to be like, I'm better than all of you. I want to be better than all of you. And Drake took that personally and
While the
started saying,
others actually found it to be good because they're like hip hop is actually a competition. It is a
Yeah.
contest. So
But Drake is just sensitive.
Yeah,
because he's worked.
but that's the thing though, for someone who says that he is a student of hip hop and a student of what they call the competition
Yeah.
of that kind of hip hop,
Uh-huh.
he should have known. All the other people that he
They didn't take it
mentioned,
personally.
they didn't take. They were like, "This is what we
Okay.
do in hip hop," and even some of them that were mentioned were even pissed that homeboy didn't even mention me. Why didn't he mention me? Because I want to be
you know,
mentioned.
it's an honor.
Yeah, because it's an honor.
Yeah.
But out of all of them, Drake took it personally and took it all like real. And part of it was also the media as well because they enjoy stuff like that because they kept asking him. But if he hadn't, to me, I feel if he hadn't taken it so personal,
I know, it's just so
and then
cringe.
yeah,
It's
it's
so
so cringe.
cringy.
But I think what he wanted is what he got.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think that was pretty much how it ended up to be what it is now.
But okay.
And because if you're again like, because to me as a rapper, I always looked at Drake. He's got to get out of here. I think that I've always thought he is cancerous to the art form. He's cancerous to the culture. So, and at the time, everybody said, "You're a hater. You're a hater. You're a hater." I said, I don't know. I don't like it. He's not even from here." And I would say the same thing all the time. He's not from America. I don't even know why you guys are listening to him at all. But here we are, 2024 now. Everybody's like, "It's not like us." Okay, that's fine. But so at the time, so if you're looking at it and you're like, I want to represent the integrity of this art form, and the person who's at the top of the art form, you view him as the antithesis of that, which I'm just going to put myself in Kendrick's shoes. You got to get him out of here. To some extent, it's just a competition of trying to make me the artist who does the art the top of the art form versus this commercialized industry creation.
Yeah, but yet I feel the audience should have that range of pop, feel good. Because I mean, like, okay, we're just in Drake a lot. Sorry, Drake, if you're.
That was not our intention.
I cannot tell you. I broke Hotline Bling playing it so goddamn much because it's fun, and sometimes you don't want to think about things. But then something about the Super Bowl performance made me think that there's going to be this subversive high art that's going to be sneaking into every corner of our culture. Hopefully, that's my hope, is that people start giving like deeper, stronger messages.
Mhm.
So popping back over to Kendrick, what would you say is his message if, in your opinion, like you could find a through line, with all of his different albums? What do you think it is that he's trying to say? Like, do you think that there's I don't know, any clarity around that?
There's not really a through line. The through line is honestly, it's like a black empowerment. We're in this together, we all embody the same struggle, but he does really try to emphasize like he's not here to save anybody. He's not a savior. He's just a person like the rest of us going through things that we go through. And that's kind of the through line that most people resonate with, that he brings up regular experiences in the form of highly complex raps, if you will.
Yeah.
So,
Well, what do you think was his social impact from the halftime show? Like, what
Which
what's your
actually brings up the
yeah.
idea of let's start with what's your review of the halftime show,
Yeah.
and then we move on to that.
so the halftime show to me honestly gets better. It's like an 11 out of 10 right now. So every time I watch it, there's something else or another angle that I'm looking at it from. So then maybe I have one review of it with a whole different idea and I watch it again and it's like, well, maybe he was trying to say this or maybe, he's saying all these things at the same time. So I I just think it's great. I think that there's multiple layers in there. There's a layer that's for Black America. There's a layer that's for white America or casual America. There's a layer for Drake, you
Mhm.
know, and all of these layers are kind of stacked on top of each other to tell three stories at the exact same time. And you can take the layers from the colors of the dancers to the actual messaging of the songs to the movements of the dancers, that they're all saying so many different things and doing so many things at the same time
Mhm.
that yeah, I thought the performance is great. I feel there's still so much more to get from it, but like one example is like when Samuel L. Jackson tells him, you know, you guys need to slow it down, break it down. This is too ghetto. After he plays Squabble Up.
Yeah.
And so then the next song that comes on is Humble, and all of the dancers get really stiff. And
Mhm.
so all of a sudden they stop having that freedom of movement, but the dancers are now being stiff because I guess Uncle Sam has come down on their little joy and told them to humble it, you know.
Mhm.
So
That, that song I think resonated the most for me
Mhm.
because I'm just like, damn, like, there is an essence of like, we are not allowed to speak our mind at this
mhm.
particular point in time. And that song is just like, it hits a nail on the head.
Yeah.
But to play that at Super Bowl was like, oh, this is more than other Super Bowl shows, which have just been complete spectacle.
Yeah.
Like there was some steak and potatoes here.
Yeah. I mean, Humble is actually his big hit.
It's his biggest hit, yeah.
Bigger hit. So it made sense that he was going to play it.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
like Ali just mentioned that I didn't even think about that. So it's a good thing that you said that because when he just demonstrated the rubber, them being stiff, I was like, oh, actually that's true.
Right
Because
after what Samuel Jackson
yeah,
said.
and then
No,
you're
that's
seeing them
great.
doing this, and you're seeing
Yeah.
them like, oh yeah, that's true, because it's like they're kind of like he's kind of like whipping them into shape. Like, no, you have to humble yourself if
Damn.
you're going to, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
to get yourself together. You want to make it big in this game or win the game, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
What other symbolisms did you get from this that you think was extremely important?
Well, again, like if you notice, he's never with the Blue Dancers.
Okay.
So that's just kind of letting you know, even in his cultural, there's that divide too, because he's on the blood side of things in terms
Oh,
of
okay.
LA
Yeah.
politics. So if
Okay.
you notice, the entire performance until I think the very end where they're doing Not Like Us, and that's kind of like where we're coming together
Hmm.
because, you know, everybody gets separated before that, and then they start kind of walking around militantly for the All the Stars, and
Hmm.
then the fun starts again. And
Hmm.
then all Not Like Us. So I think that he's with the Blue Dancers then. But for the rest of it, no Blue Dancers. It'll be the White Dancers separating him from the Red Dancers, or he'll be with the Red Dancers. But he's never with the Blue Dancers throughout the whole thing. So
That
I
makes
just felt like
sense.
most of the dancers were being segregated, and the way that they would move would always be kind of in line with what was being said. So when Luther came on, everybody kind of flows.
Mhm.
It's a much
Yeah.
freer movement. But
Yeah.
then he switches to All the Stars, and it's all militant because even though that song is a hit and it makes people comfortable when you listen to lyrics, it's still quite powerful. It's not like a
Mm-hmm.
regular pop song at the end of the day. And
Hmm.
then he goes right from that to Not Like Us and everybody, and then TV off. So I don't know. There's symbolism everywhere. I don't even know exactly how to explain all of it, just because it's like ever present. Like when they say A minor, all of the dancers literally stand with their legs in a V, so everybody from the sky looks like an A. The entire field looks like A's on the
I
floor.
have to go back and watch that
Yeah, I
again.
need to see
Oh
that.
my
Yeah,
God.
Yeah.
I didn't even, I would
yeah.
say
It'll
one.
zoom up, and then you look, and everybody's standing with their legs like spread out, so they all look like A's.
Jesus Christ. Okay, that guy's a genius. But one thing, him and Dave Free, both of them, and every other person that they worked with, one that I actually did like, and then actually found out about it when someone did a video, and he started crying, was the
Hmm.
symbolism with the guys that he was doing the acapella with for "I Deserve It" for the
Oh, for Man in the Garden.
yeah.
Yeah, somebody did say that they felt like that was a funeral scene or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, because that's the person that watched it said that he didn't pay attention to it until he watched it again.
Mhm.
Apparently, those guys that were standing under the lamppost, were meant to represent his friends that had passed away. and that
Mm.
he had noticed that there were some guys there were meant to be 16 of them. I didn't really count, but there looked like there were about 16 of them. But
Hmm.
that some of them were standing on the lamp, were lying down at the top of the lamppost while you had the other guys dancing. And the guy
Yeah.
started crying, saying that he actually was in his car, and so he kind of turned his camera to his phone to show up the lamppost that was on the street. And he was saying that what he found so beautiful were that the friends, the guys that were that were there represented his dead friends that had
Hmm.
passed away. And that his dead friends, this was just showing them celebrating his victory with him. Because even that moment where all the dancers fell on the floor and they were like chalk out, what they call it?
Outlines. Yeah.
Yeah, outlines. Those guys were still standing, dancing. And you
Hmm.
saw people, and I was just like, oh my God, I didn't even
Mm.
think about that.
That's
Because
beautiful.
he did mention that he had lost a lot of friends, 16 to be exact. And so it's almost like
Mm.
his friends, his deceased friends are now angels celebrating with him.
Hmm.
I thought that was freaking amazing because again, the intricate way of putting this together. I don't know how long it takes for them to put stuff together like this, but I saw some videos as to people putting all the stuff together. And in so doing, they're able to put this artistic, but at the same time, it touches the soul. Because when the guy was crying, I teared up a little bit because I was like, that is
No,
amazing.
it makes sense too because let me look in my notes here. So right after they do humble,
Hmm.
right, shots ring out.
Hmm.
Everybody scatters.
Hmm.
And then he does DNA. So he's kind of talking about, I got war in me and bro, it's in my DNA. So he's kind of explaining I come from this,
Yeah.
so that's the next part of the show. Like, y'all want to humble me, but I'm from this chaotic environment where shit happens. So that's just who I am. And then the next song after that is Euphoria,
Hmm.
so everybody gets more hype. So he's just kind of still going on with the fight, and then he does Man in the Garden with the
Hmm.
angels or the fallen friends. So I think that yeah, that does make sense. I think the white dancers and all, they kind of just represented innocence or black joy. If
True.
you look at how they move throughout the performance, they're
Hmm.
not like the blue or the red. The reds and the blues kind of always have some kind of form and direction, and the
Hmm.
whites are always kind of free to do what they want. So they're the ones circling him in the beginning, and then the ones who are dancing with him when he's doing they're even the girls too. The girls are in white when you really want to do it.
Yeah.
All that stuff. Yeah, it's always the white dancers who are kind of the fun ones.
Hmm.
Can we take it back? So clearly there's some gang references and he's from Compton. Like how rough was his how did he explode on the scene? Like where was his origins from? Like well, do you know anything about that?
Well, he's was signed with Top Dog Entertainment. TDE is like based out of Watts. So Top Dog, he's like a OG. So he
Yeah.
kind of had like a little collective of rappers who he kept out of trouble, and they were able to do their thing. They originally actually had like their first artist was J Rock, if you guys know J
Yeah.
Rock. And J
Hmm.
Rock was signed to Cash Money. So J Rock is the one who got everybody's foot in the door, and Kendrick was just another artist on TDV. And
Hmm.
Kendrick just kind of blew up when Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe really took off in 2012. That was it. But other than that, he was just kind of a local Compton dude doing rap stuff, doing college shows and stuff like that, like at UC Riverside. I saw him there when
Hmm.
I was there before he really blew up.
Hmm.
And yeah, he was always local. Even I like had his engineer. I met him at the swap meet one day, and I was supposed to go to the studio with them, but I went to college.
You make it like it's a yeah. I had to go to
Well,
college, so I
because
couldn't go.
when I think of like in the 90s, we had a lot of rappers that came from the rougher parts of LA, and like that was like the origins. Like I feel like I see that less frequently now.
Hmm.
So Kendrick is like kind of part of a generation where the things that they speak about, they've actually, gone through a lot, you know.
I think that a lot of them from our time, and Ali, Kamal, sorry, Ali's time, a lot of them did come from, because a lot of the time, Kamal, Ali, my other brother, they all met with a lot of these dudes when they would go to parties and everything. So for
Yeah,
it's nothing new. They already kind of knew who they were
Mm,
before they became big.
mm,
But I think now it's like everybody wants to be a rapper, unfortunately, when they can't be, when they're not as talented, and they come from decent backgrounds, but they feel like they have to be this gangster, have this gang to show that, oh,
sure, sure,
which is
sure.
so.
Which is interesting because that is, I think, in essence, the Drake and Kendrick debate, right? You got the over. I mean, I don't know what Drake's origins are, but like maybe there's an overproduced side of music, and then there's actually this is
Well, I,
my poetry, my life.
I feel like there's honestly just two sides. There's like the internet and there's the lived this shit, right? And the Kendrick side is the lived this shit, and then they put it on their music. And then there's the internet where you can kind of do or be whatever you want to be as
Mm,
long as people accept the image. And that's kind of what the other side, or, I won't say his name this time, side kind of falls into, because even when you look at him switching accents, doing this is like the young rappers, a lot of the kids who come from good neighborhoods, it doesn't matter. You can be a hood superstar if you want to, as long as you are on the internet or hanging out with you can go wherever you want. You don't have to be born in the neighborhood anymore. It's very different than it was like when we were growing up. Like anybody can kind of do anything. Everybody lives in apartments now, so anybody can form a gang. It's just quite different than like the politics of old. And I feel like there's just that confrontation between people who are like organically from certain situations and people who put themselves in situations for clout.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
I think the audience is not smart enough. I mean, like, no, the
No,
audience is smart,
they're smart
but you can
enough.
almost not distinguish one from the other sometimes, or I
No,
don't know.
no, you're right,
You need, you know.
Camelia. The audience is not
I'm
discerning
not
enough.
saying I'm not part of the audience. I'm
Yeah, yeah. The audience isn't discerning. I won't say they're not smart enough. They're not discerning enough. Maybe
yes.
they don't hear certain, like me, when I hear certain artists, it sounds fake, which is why it doesn't resonate with me. I can listen to somebody sing about anything if they're really singing it. Like, oh, that came from the heart. I can tell he went through a million heartbreaks. But
Hmm.
if you're just singing about them and it's not coming from you, for somebody like me at least, it's not gonna resonate. It doesn't. And I feel like that's the difference between like the general consumer and like people who consume art on a higher level, is that they want something that actually connects, that they can resonate with, that doesn't just sound or look good.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
What would you say is the message? So for the black community and the white community, what would you say is the message that he's trying to give through his art?
I mean, the good thing is that the message winds up being the same, because we do kind of have the same issues. We're just divided amongst ourselves in our own tribes, which is kind of, everybody siloed red, blue. We have red, blue in the black community. We have red and blue in general American politics. So I think the overall message is that we're in this together, and Uncle Sam is kind of holding us all in one place. And that the only way that we're going to break through it is to kind of find the joy together and you know move, make the next move into the future. Like that's why he says it's a revolution. You got the right time and the wrong guy. I think it's just about us being able to move in sync like the dancers did at the end of the performance, and to turn the TV off, because that's what's also causing a lot of what's dividing us at the end of the day. It is really coming from the front of our screen and from the
Mm,
top down, more than it's coming from our actual communities and the things we think and feel about ourselves. So I think that's really the message.
yeah.
Hmm. Are people going to listen? Are they going to actually adhere to it? That's the
No.
question.
I mean,
Addicted to
they
social
can,
media and
yeah.
Instagram and like TikTok and keyboard warriors. Like they're not being real. They're not, and I love that dissection of that song in that moment. But I think it's like it's kind of hard. Like personally, you know.
Yeah, it's a good message because it's something that'll go into the back of people's heads. I don't think that somebody looks at a Kendrick Lamar performance and says, "Let me go out into the world and be a better man." Like if that's what it takes for you, then your influences probably need to be checked. Like anything can influence you at that point. So
Mhm.
it's just hopefully that this piece of art puts something in your head, that maybe that art puts something in the next leader's head so
Yeah.
that they can actually move forward with the movement. Not so much that everybody's going to be, oh my God, Kendrick's performance has woken us all up. But that performance wakes up somebody else who has influence that can do, the next step in the work. Obviously, Kendrick is just an artist. He can't lead the revolution. He's a man of very few feet of height. So, somebody will have to come along and pick up where he has put it down, but I think he did his part.
I know we're running out of time. Gosh, this is such an interesting conversation. I'm so glad you agreed to do this. But what would you say is his message now? Now that you've had people since he came out on top, people from Joey Badass trying to come out with a diss track, and then you have people from like Daylight and another guy.
Rayvon, did you hear
Uh,
that, Rayvon?
yeah,
Yeah, he
he
smoked him.
he smoked him.
Rayvon is finished to
He
be.
did
He put out another one too,
yeah. Oh, he
called
did. I
Impossible
do
Madness.
remember that. But what would you
Yeah.
say now would be the message that the other? Because he did say at his Grammys that as long as you respect the art for the future generation, it would take you further. And then do what you do, but just respect the art. Since this has happened with the shouting match with Drake, 5 Grammys swept the Super Bowl halftime show. What do you think? Do you think this would resonate with future, even rappers now that we have, but also future rappers who have seen what has happened? Would they make them rethink how they approach their art as rappers?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the best thing about this, that
Okay.
art won, because 5 Grammys, undeniable, biggest song ever. This will have people looking for, harmless rap beefs to get into so that they can try to make a great record based on something like that. People were studying Euphoria, studying all these songs for lyrics. You got people reacting to lyrics. You got the best lyricist of all the lyricists doing the Super Bowl halftime to the most views of all time.
Mm-hmm.
That is the best thing that could happen to like lyrical rap right now, because the next generation might not be kids or I'm not a kid, but it might not be people my age. It's not going to be people maybe in their early 20s, but the kids who are 15, 16, who are just watching things and coming up, they're going to be with their pen and their pad trying to go crazy. It's not going to be mumble rap for the next generation. It's going to be rap.
All
And
right.
that's wonderful.
Uh,
Love that.
Ali, you graced us with your presence. This was so interesting to discuss.
Super
And
cool.
I definitely want you to come back and do more things like this with us because, being able to discuss such topics that really would go over my head is great, and not just as an African American, but as an African, a Nigerian, being able to speak to things that even our people will not understand is beautiful. So I really, really do appreciate, really appreciate you,
Oh,
especially
totally.
for her,
Yeah.
since she was bothering me to do this this
No,
show.
any place where art is coming into focus, I'm just so hyped. So thank you for illuminating a lot of the details that were lost on me. Now I got to go back, rewatch it again.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat to
Mhm.
see some of the things you
Yeah,
pointed out.
watch it as many times and you'll probably just be equally confused and have another reason to watch it again. But that's what art is there for. So
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, my love. I really appreciate it, and I will
thanks for
talk to you
having me.
soon, and we'll definitely bring you back to discuss more. Okay?
Yeah, if you want to do a movie review segment or something, I'm
Let's
around.
do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right, my love. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.